Dude, I've been looking forward to this because for a multitude of reasons. One, it's because like obviously, Zeus has been a huge talking point, especially after the Jupe vote and everything like that. But on top of that, this is, I think, my first podcast outside of, I've done some podcasts at Cube.exchange in Chicago at their headquarters, but outside of that, this is my one of the few podcasts I've done not at my setup in LA. So this is it feels like I'm like cheating on my own podcast setup. But
well, it's definitely my honor to force you out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, man. So I appreciate you doing this. And so first off, give me for people who don't know who you are, give me a 30-second intro to yourself, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, for sure. My name is Justin. I was born in Taiwan, raised in Taiwan. Kind of grew up in Canada for about 10 years. Did my college there. And fortunately, I was never employed by someone else. I started my first startup journeys in third year college. I tried to sell second textbooks. Obviously, everyone's trying to buy off Quicklist. I was very tired of that. And I wanted to build my own apps and sell that, but I was trying to be perfect, right? And I think first time you start up your own business ideas, you want to be perfect on everything. Took about years, 4 years, trying to come up with MVP. The engineer was like, hey, we work with students. We need to get a salary. We need to get paid. So I was trying to door-on-door, trying to raise funds in my 4th year. So obviously I couldn't raise much of money off that. But I think that moments I realized that, hey, you don't have to be perfect when you start new ideas. So, I was very fortunate to meet a lot of people when I was about to graduate. So I moved to Dubai for a couple of years, my first startups. In a couple of years, 2 to 3 years, we exited 4 million euros. And at that time, we were doing VPN business, and we collect quite a few cryptocurrency, Monero, Bitcoins. And then that's the time where I started to get into it. I was like, hey, this thing could be one of the methods, right? It doesn't have to be everyone's using the Bitcoins as a payments. So in 16, 17, I started digging into payments, protocols, started another venture in Singapore with my friends as well. Did pretty well on that, still running. But right now, I'm kind of behind the scene right now. In 2020, I gave some angel tickets in the space, quite a few protocols that I was angel investors. But it's funny thing, right? You start asking yourself, you've been advising all these projects, but you never really build projects yourself in the space. So I started looking into alternatives of Ethereum. Obviously, for me, it was never a scalable solutions where it's hard to use. You have to sign in twice as a transactions. And not to mention all these fragmentation on layer 2, even layer 3, some people were talking about. I just don't feel like that is probably the chain that will really onboard the mass adoptions, especially the building users. And I started looking into, obviously Cosmos, Polkadots.
Oh yeah.
And Solana. And frankly speaking, I was able to meet Toli and Raj in late 2019 when they were just doing the roadshow in China. So I was very impressed. Those two founders, they definitely have their say, their takes on the blockchain space. And then I think the design of POS was very unique at that back then. They weren't talking about POS; they were already talking about things that ahead of everyone else already. So, so I went back to Taiwan. Get a couple of friends of mine from college, a couple of kids. Where we participated first global hackathon, DeFi hackathon, global hackathons. I think we made it to the semifinals. Obviously, we didn't continue. I think the market condition wasn't right. And in 2020, Solana was picking up. I was like, hey, you know what? Maybe it's time to start a serious project on Solana. So we started DAPIO in late 2020. It was a hard time, man. In 2020, if you want to pitch Ethereum Foundation people, especially if developers in Taiwan, 90% of them are Ethereum maxis. So it really took me a while, to convince them to really build on Solana. So I think the Jim, my co-founder, Tech Leads, he was early contributors for Ethereum meetups, Ethereum Foundation in Taiwan, Asia specifically. And I was very fortunate to get on board, build this DAPIO notion. And what is DAPIO, right? DAPIO is like instant dApp on Solana. Not sure if everyone knows instant dApp. So instant dApp is it's like one click you can access to all DeFi protocols on Solana. So at one time we did 14 integrations.
Oh wow!
And what's more importantly is that we forced Solana mainnet. So we forced the entire Solana blockchain to our own testing environment. Why? So basically, we also built a new consensus, new codings. So you only need one line of code. You can integrate with anyone on Solana. So that also solves as a composability part for Solana DeFi. But obviously, Market didn't appreciate much, as in the condition was going down. FTX price, everything priced in. So kind of like, on the downhill, we start wondering, right? Like with our daily FT user, we went from like almost 1,000, a couple hundreds to almost like 40, 30, 20. I mean, as a founder, you got to start asking yourself like, hey, maybe it's time to pivot. And the good thing about Web3 is that it's easy to start, but it's also easy to pivot as well, right? So we start trying to go through like AI, on-chain AI and database, SocialFi, developer tool. None of these really took off. And, I really want to take time off. I told my co-founders like, we tried 3 pivots, all failed pretty bad. No tractions. For me, it's a failure, right? So really like start going to conferences, getting more inspirations. And yeah, last year, 8 months ago, I went to like Europe for Bitcoin conferences. Obviously, a lot of my friends are still Bitcoin maxi from early days. I start hearing this notion, like layer 2 on Bitcoin. I'm like, what is this all about? Like, obviously I've heard about smart contract layer like stacks on Bitcoin, but I never heard of BVN. It's like a Ethereum virtual machine, but with Bitcoin and gas and Europe. And I started looking into it. I'm like, none of these actually doesn't make sense. Like, if you're creating a layer on top of Bitcoin and then using like EVMs as virtual machine structures, you're basically using Ethereum, replace Ethereum to Bitcoin as a gas. And you're not relying on layer 1 of Bitcoin, which is POW as a validator to validate your security and your speeds. So that to me, you're creating a new blockchain on top of Bitcoin using Bitcoin as a gas. There's something new about it, right? So why don't we do Solana? That's the thing I clicked, right? I started wondering, like, being like, thinking this, why can we make Solana as a layer 2?
Give me the timeline too of this. Like when exactly was this that you're kind of like, okay, Solana makes sense for this? Because you just brought up earlier FTX and everything like that. Obviously at that time period, there's a lot of people who are asking the question of like, hey, does Solana survive this, right? So when did you guys decide, okay, not only do we believe that Solana is actually going to survive this, but we're looking to create essentially this layer 2 with Bitcoin and it's going to use Solana. So when exactly, I guess, did you flip from, okay, we've survived FTX and now we're actually going to go all in on Solana and using that with Bitcoin?
Well, we've been Solana maxi since day one. We've been early contributor. We would have taken the role to write first Mandarin tutorial on Anchor.
Oh,
we were the first one to advocate Anchor in Asia as well, specifically. So, we've been with Solana a long time now. I would say, like, obviously on the downhill, we start questioning ourselves. Is it time to really like find alternatives? But that wasn't really his excuse, right? Instead, I think Foundation came to us saying that, hey, we know you guys been building since day one. We want to help you guys as well. And they did help with extra grants, incubating us, trying to push us to do more things for the foundation level, for developments, obviously, educational, material, technical developments, so on and so forth. So, I think until 7 months ago, before I started thinking about Zeus. We never had the thoughts where we wanted to leave Solana, obviously, for any second. So back to your questions. 7 months ago, I think that was the time where I started asking myself, is it possible to make Solana as an execution layer or application layer on top of Bitcoin? And obviously, it came out as a notion idea, right? I started asking people. I want to say I'm not the smartest person on the team, but what I'm good at is finding people that are smarter than me where we work together. So I start asking around developers between conferences to conferences, and oftentimes the answer I get is like impossible, right? Like you have 2 different blockchains, one's POW, one has no virtual machine, one's developed by Rust. It's not even scalable in terms of combating all these different blockchains. But that didn't really stop me, right? I'm not sure people know RAIN protocols.
I know BTC. A little bit about that, but not a ton.
Yeah, so they were the pioneers building like a communication there between EVM and Bitcoins. Obviously, EVM, it wasn't an execution there. Everyone knows that it's pretty slow. It was hard to build. It's hard to provide composability between protocol to protocols. So I look into the code. I look into the documentations. I talk to my tech leads that, hey, is there a way to do so? Yeah, there's a way, but we just don't know how. So luckily, another co-founder came in. His name's Dean. Extremely talented developers, knows how to speak 10 plus in languages.
Wow.
Yeah, so he was probably one of the earliest contributor for Tap Bros as well. And yeah, we've been sharing a lot of ideas and then a lot of narrative visions. And then three of us sat down together, talk about, does it make sense? How can we execute this? So we ran through a couple of tests, experiments, designs, and it worked out.
There we go.
It worked out. And right that moment, I asked Dean, our co-founder, is that I'll be the first person to do so. He firmly said, yes, absolutely yes. So I think that was the moment I realized that this thing has so much potential. It could really like change the entire demographics for the entire blockchain space, where we're not only single-handedly relying on one blockchain. We could use a layer to interact with multiple blockchains at one point. So here's the reason why, if you check out our Twitters, we only started Twitter 5 months ago. The reason why we didn't start from the beginning is because I didn't want to build a story. We want to make sure that, hey, the tech is deliverable. It's feasible to build this entire thing, Zeus layers. So, obviously December, we created Twitter accounts. Discord has been, through the roof in terms of community growth, supporter, advocates, Olympians, obviously from Olympus. It's been quite a journey, I have to say, especially the moment we got like 60%, almost 60% vote from LFG Launchpad. That's like almost 100 millions of Jupe stake under Zeus protocols, Zeus Network. So, right now everyone's making money from Jupe as well, right? So
yeah,
I've been getting a lot of messages saying that, hey, they're very, very grateful with the vision narrative we're trying to bring it on tables, also the tech as well. Funny. This morning I just checked our Apollo testnet, the first app building on Zeus layers. We had almost 35,000 unique IP addresses.
Oh wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, we're gonna post that data tomorrow. So it's crazy that people don't realize this is something I envision, right? For the next 5 to 10 years, Bitcoin is probably going to be the booming assets for the future generation or current generations. I imagine that everyone's going to have a decentralized wallet on their phones, and everyone's going to have a bit of Bitcoins. But instead of sitting there, why can't we provide additional yield that stake your BTC, earn yield on different blockchains in the permissionless manners? Obviously, DeFi is going to play huge roles, and I still think that Solana DeFi is probably far more superior, far more robust than any other layers right now. A couple of reasons, right? People have to realize yield comes from users. If you offer 20% of yield from inflationary tokens, not actually from a user perspective, that's not sustainable, right?
100%.
And Solana has the best social layer right now, with the most users. We have almost over 1 million addresses interacting with the blockchain itself on the daily levels. So surprisingly, I talked to miners as institutional clients for our layers. They wanted to get exposed to Solana, but not through exchanges, not through WBTC, because WBTC you need KYC, right? You just have to pay tax for it. If there's a permissionless solutions exposed to Solana, why can't we? People have to realize that, right? WBTC is only 0.4% of entire circulation supply. There is about 99.6% of Bitcoin sitting on our circulating supply, doing absolutely nothing.
Dude, I have so many questions. Okay, first question I have for you. So I feel like a lot of people who have been building on chain, one of the frustrating parts is that you have this idea, and then certain times maybe you have the greatest idea ever, and sometimes it just doesn't gain the traction that you're looking for. So you've been building multiple different things all throughout your time operating in the blockchain space, some of which never gained the traction that you were looking for. How do you kind of keep yourself, I guess, motivated during a time like that? Because I feel like it's really easy to get super burnt out. There's obviously people who are building right now who are probably watching this going, hey, I've been building for the last, year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, however so long, and we're just not getting that traction that we're looking for. How did you keep yourself motivated during a time like that?
I think when you start a company, your intention is very important, right? Obviously, there are some bad characters, good characters in the space. There are some that want to make money off VC, being raised a lot, be like, hey, time to chill, right? Where the ones that didn't raise enough money, they hustle all the way through and raise more at the end of the day. So I think getting burnt out, I definitely got burned out a couple times, but I kind of readjust myself pretty quickly over the weekends or two. I think it's important, right? Take a rest, really step back, think through what exactly are you building for? Why are you here? I think a lot of our team member has been through down the hill with me for the last 3 years. I think hence the reason why our team as a team is so strong right now. Everyone knows this kind of opportunity doesn't come handy, right? A lot of our team members were complaining or didn't see the future staying with me as a founders. They know this is the moment we have to take it, right? I've been telling them, right? I've been telling them, motivating, hey, we get down as ideas, we get up as a team. That's
100%.
very important. And a lot of them got into space first time because of me. There's even one developer quit his school, drop out his school, join our team as well. So it definitely comes with responsibility, liabilities, and more so as the vision that we want to bring into the team, right? Like I said, me as founder, I was never the smartest person in the team, but my job is to get people that are smarter than me work together effectively, collectively, as a team, as a company. So I'm very glad that my co-founder tech lead Jim is one of the best tech lead out there. Been supportive since day one with my visions, and our newly joined co-founder Dean. These guys are probably the smartest developers. You guys want to know. He holds a lot of secret sauce on the Bitcoin side. So when you have talents, moments, team comes together in one piece, everything just happens naturally from there. And what I want to say to all the current builders or future founders is that it's not an easy journey. If you want to find a easy journey, you probably don't want to start a company, right? There's a reason why it's easier to do 9 to 5 than starting a company, obviously. But the amount of excitement, the amount of fulfillment that we can give you as a founder or developers is far more beyond than any other industries.
100%. And is a big part of that because you actively feel like you're building out the future of all of this. Because I look at this and what you talked about earlier of basically saying, can we build this layer 2 using Solana? And people are kind of like, well, no, that's not even possible, right? And then you're kind of like, well, no, I think it is possible. And you keep diving into it and you're bringing these people on, you're having these conversations with them and you're like, actually, okay, there might be a solution. We just don't know what it is yet. Obviously, that's something where, I even think about on another aspect of this, like Bitcoin ordinals, right? And there was a time period when I first got into NFTs where I was like, well, so why aren't there NFTs on Bitcoin, right? And people were like, oh, it's just not possible on Bitcoin. And then fast forward a few years, now all of a sudden everybody's like, well, hey, welcome to ordinals, and ordinals blows up, right? Yeah. So I feel like we have this whole world of Web3 and blockchain in general where people kind of tell you, no, that's not possible. And then somebody else is like, well, actually, I think it is, and here's how we're going to build that out. And so for you, why do you, I feel like, multi-chain and people being, I guess, less chain maxi has become kind of the big, narrative in the last year where people are kind of saying, hey, it felt like when I first got into crypto back in like 2017, people had these specific chains that they were a huge fan of, and that was all they cared about, right? Mm-hmm. And they were like, this one specific chain is going to cure all the problems in the world, and that's why you should focus on this, or this, right? Now I feel like more than ever, we're seeing a lot more multi-chain, people actually working together, finding different ways for chains to integrate with each other and everything like that. Why do you think we've seen that kind of pivot? And even from like a building out standpoint, you talked about how a few years ago when you were talking to a lot of people, a lot of the engineers and whatnot were focusing only on Ethereum. They weren't really interested in building on Solana and things like that. Where do you kind of think we've seen that pivot? Why do you think that pivot has occurred?
Well, obviously, I think if EVM as a structure, as a layer, has failed a lot of expectations-wise last cycles. Everyone thought that layer 2 was meant to scale entire EVM ecosystem, but turns out it made entire EVM more fragmented, right, as a layer. So I think that's the point where a lot of engineers they're tired of moving around layer 2 or even layer 3 right now on the EVM side. Instead, they want to find a niche, a home where they can build. Subsequently speaking, like, you don't have to like think of, oh, there's a new layer coming out, we gotta migrate over, we gotta figure out how to bring the liquidity over. We're educating communities. What if there's a layer, right? Everyone is fairly treated and far more invested. When you build a product, it's easier to get user acquisitions. I think that's Solana. And what I've seen right now is that Solana is the only blockchain that we've been consistently asking ourselves, okay, we built Ethereum already. We've been proven that. How can we help others? How can you make this application execution layer on top of anyone else that enable these blockchains to work with Solana, right? I don't want to be speculative with my current statements, but with Solana to surpass Ethereum TVL, we need external blockchain assets. We can have 10 Jupiters, 10 GTOs, where all these 10 market cap, like large market cap tokens coming out every year. It's impossible, right? Obviously. But what we need is a couple thousand BTC or a couple thousand Litecoin, 100,000 Litecoins or Dogecoin or any other chains asset that coming to Solana, leveraging the entire ecosystem, DeFi ecosystem. So I just think that narrative has changed. 2019 we have DeFi summer, and we talk about DeFi application all the time. In this cycle, we're probably gonna hear more about cross-chain interoperabilities and how can we enable chain-to-chain working together. There's a phrase, right? The best blockchain product is when you feel like there is blockchainless. There's no blockchains. When you're combining two blockchains together, you don't feel like, hey, there's segmentations between two. Instead, there's a solution making a couple blockchains working together seamlessly. So if Solana, like Anatoly said, he tweeted about a month ago, Solana could become one of the alternatives for a lot of blockchains as an execution application layers. If that happens, I think Zeus Networks is going to be an important piece in here because, we are now running by censorships, no more entities. Everything is running by Zeus nodes, powered by Solana validators, and our communities.
There we go.
Yeah.
So talk to me about what it's like to work with the Solana Foundation, because I feel like when I think about other chains, I feel like their founders aren't nearly as supportive. And this is obviously, I'm sure there are some other people on other chains who will be like, no, our founders are great, they're easy to work with, everything like that. But I do feel like the Solana Foundation are very vocal, they're very forward-facing and things like that. So what is it like working with the Solana Foundation?
It's been great. They're very supportive. Obviously, we did more than just building projects. We did our communities, like developer communities. We were one of the biggest Asians Solana developer communities in Taiwan. We also wrote the Chinese textbooks, obviously. We've been getting quite a bit of support from the foundation sides. And when I had these ideas about Zeus Networks, I spoke to foundation level. Obviously, we ship our ideas and the structure and designs, and it wasn't pretty hard for us to get in contact with Anatoly. And especially during the COVID, Anatoly, I was very surprised that he had the similar visions back in late 2019. He knew that in order for a blockchain to really become ultimate application execution layers, the Bitcoin has to be brought into the chain itself. Because with the most decentralized networks, the best application layers, there's just so much catalyst, so much things innovation can be happening between chain to chains, right? So he loved our designs, and you could arguably say that there's more cross-chain layers like Thorchain, Layer 0, Wormhole, but our design is superior in a way that is validated by Solana validators, by Zeus nodes, and we enable AOST SOL like MSOL, GTO SOL, or native SOL to become running in nodes. So frankly speaking, we are adding another layer of incentives for the entire Solana security and network itself. And people don't realize how much money our BitGos or WBDs as an entity is making on a monthly basis. Quite a bit, actually. So why can't we do a permissionless matter, right? Giving back these fees to the node holders. And there could be another incentives for people to buy SOL, to stake their SOL, to earn another layer of cross-chain fees on top of that. So just very exciting. I think overall, people don't realize that the potential of this layer that could not just from 1,000 Bitcoin, right? We could do Litecoin, Dogecoins, like we could do a lot of external assets. So, if Anatoly has this vision to let Solana become the ultimate execution application layers, I think it's our duty, our job and mission to make this happen as well.
100%. So I know Anatoly was one of your guys' early investors. Tell me about some of the other early investors that you guys had and why I guess they were so bullish on Zeus Network.
Well, Andrew Kahn, Mechanism Capitals, is also a friend of mine, obviously, but he's probably one of the smartest fund founders in the space I've seen. I met him in 2018, started off nothing to where he at right now with 4 years. It's something. The guy has visions. When I talked to Andrew about these visions, he knew it was gonna be a narrative that I was gonna talk about, and this was 7 months ago. So the guy had a vision. We talk about how we want to structure this, how we want to design this, moving forward. Absolutely, he's been supporting us since day one, introducing us with our key funds, which we're gonna be announcing soon, I guess, and Munis, Stacks co-founders, Bitcoin Layer 2. We could work with Bitcoin Layer 2 too. Zeus there, we could connect Bitcoin Layer 2 to Solana as well. They're going to have SBDC. So why can't we wrap SBDC to ZBDC on Solana so that everyone earn additional yield in 2 different blockchains? So a lot of things going to be rolling out. I'm so very excited, right? Solana, we're able to work with external blockchain in such a peaceful manner instead of fighting like we are the killer of you, this and that. If there's a liquidity on an external blockchain, why can't we migrate over to Solana? People should have the chance to expose to Solana networks, right? So
100%. So I know when you guys were part of the Jupe vote, one of the things that I saw some people saying is they were like, I'm not actually aware of Zeus. Like, I don't know a lot about them. I'm not as familiar with them. Obviously, one of the other people that was in that vote was Sharky, and Sharky's well known. They've been in the space for a long time. People, have heard from the founder and things like that, and they've probably used their applications and things like that. What do you want people to know about Zeus? Because I do feel like when I would talk to other people who I guess were more either investors or people who are in the engineering side of things, they were all super familiar with Zeus Network. But again, when I was talking to the I don't want to say the average, but like the typical like Web3 consumer, they weren't as familiar. So what do you want them to know about Zeus Network, and I guess like where they're going to see the biggest changes in like what they use on a daily basis? And what I mean by that is, like, I feel like a lot of times when people talk about, oh, we're building out this, and this, you don't necessarily know, okay, well, how am I going to actually see a benefit from this, right? Like, Jupiter is a great example of a product that a lot of people use on a regular basis. It's really easy for them to explain to somebody else as to why they should use Jupiter, all the different functionality on it and everything like that. So give me kind of like, what do you want people to know about Zeus Network? And I guess fast forward a year from now, where do you think Zeus Network will have the biggest benefit to the average consumer?
Yeah, for sure. Let's talk about different perspective, right? So, in terms of ecosystem, amount of liquidities we're piling into Solana, the more liquidity goes, the more yields going to be generated, more innovation will be built on top of Solana ecosystem. So, it's going to be one of a kind. But people don't realize that, especially I was chatting with Sharky's team, right? They were extremely excited on the things we're trying to build. So, we're going to have a Zeus SDK coming out. So, when you have these external assets that are being validated in the Solana virtual machine, which is Solana networks, we also helping the current Solana dApps, like DeFi dApps or NFT finance, the scale outside of Solana, right? Think about this. People could use native BTC to buy any SPO asset through Jupiter. That to me is powerful, really.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
And people don't realize that Ordinal NFT has no virtual machine, so you can't really do DAO governance. So why can we, connect it to Ordinals and wrap these versions of Ordinal NFT all to Solana? They can route DAO consensus on Solana networks. And when they do that, they can also pile their NFT into Sharkyfies, and Sharky gets additional liquidities from outside of Solana NFT, which is Ordinal NFT as well.
Wow, this is I have so many thoughts going through my brain right now. So, okay, so I want to get your thoughts on, right now we're obviously seeing a lot of the Memecoin like craze has gone crazy. And I do feel like, and I could be wrong, but I do feel like a part of why so many people are coming into Solana right now is because so many people started, I guess, getting into Solana meme coins in the last probably last like 8 months. And then they've kind of come into Solana. They've been like, well, this is actually super nice. Low transaction fees, the speed of it's incredible and everything like that. And I feel like we're onboarding a ton of people through meme coins. And then they're learning about other things like Jupe and some of the other functionality and protocols and whatnot that have been built out on Solana. What are your thoughts on kind of the meme coin craze? Do you think this is, like, some people are, super for it. They think it's a great thing for the space. There are other people who absolutely hate the meme coins. What are your thoughts on that? And do you think it is, I guess, like a good or bad way to onboard people into Solana in general?
Let's not forget, right? Digital assets is about internet money. So when you have the internet money, you have the internet culture. So I think having memes is probably one of the best ideas to attract retail to come into the chain itself. And then what's fascinating to see for the last 6 to 7 months on a meme cycle on Solana is that it hasn't been stopped yet.
No. Knock on wood, yeah.
Well, if you look at the last cycle, the meme cycle was probably last like a month or two. Obviously, if you run Ethereum, there's going to be layer 2 rotations. But what's crazy about Solana is that there isn't rotation. Everything is still happening on one chain. There's no way you're getting out of this. So easy to use, best user experience. And going back to your questions where, I'm pretty positive on these meme coins coming out. Obviously, it's pretty risky if you buy these low cap coins. But I think that's where a lot of people learn a lot of cultural communities, learn how to deal with all these stuff. And in fact, a lot of people are making quite a bit of money off this. And they're going to be start asking themselves, do I want to rotate to application that are actually going to make sense for the Solana for the next few years and months, or they could use the money to start new projects on Solana as well, right? So I think these things are good for Solana overall. It's good, and we're seeing more quality memes
Oh yeah.
When I say quality, means like the mean that actually has a communities. It means that are fairly distributed, or 100% providing transparency on a token distribution as well. So it's a bit different. Like, Solana means what I've seen from this cycle versus the last one. Way different, yeah.
Oh, 100%. I mean, I remember when I first got into like Solana meme coins, and I was just like, man, there's no liquidity in this, there's no volume, and I was like, and these things are going to zero so quickly. There's no culture. I was just like, yeah, I just don't really see it. But then I was like, it makes so much sense because Solana as a blockchain is just so much easier to use compared to ETH and ETH meme coins and everything like that. And I'm like, dude, if I go up $200, well, cool, I just paid for my gas. Like, that's basically all I pay. It's like I have to make way more money on ETH for it to even be worthwhile, because half the time it's like, if you could double what you put in and you just paid again for your gas. So you're not even profiting, right? And so then when you think about Solana, it's just, again, it is so much easier. And so I feel like we are seeing so many people come into it. The culture has just been super, super fun. And whether people are like, whether you have a big bag of a coin or not, like I think WIF, for example, it's like when WIF hit $1, it was like, this is crazy. Like this is nuts. And then a lot of people, whether you were holding WIF or not, you were recognizing this is truly insane. We've now seen WIF go close to $5, right? And it's been this incredible rush of people coming in. And as a result of that, again, like you said, it's like the other meme coins are starting to pop off, and the excitement and the culture around it, I think, is bringing so much eyes and attention to Solana. And I think that's been the part that I've enjoyed the most, because you see so many people who have been building for the last however many years on Solana, and the last year and a half of it was incredibly frustrating after FTX, because so many people were using that to dogpile on Solana. Oh, Solana's it's SBF's coin, it's super centralized, like blah, 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 and all the different like talking points. Oh, Solana goes down all the time, and people were just using that to dogpile on Solana, and now Solana's getting its moment to shine. So I guess, what is it that, we've seen kind of how we had DeFi summer, we've had, the main theses on Bitcoin, Ethereum. Where do you think this next bull run, like what do you think is going to be, when I think about like onboarding the masses, is it meme coins that are going to onboard the masses into Solana, or like what is it going to be that is going to cause the masses to come into Solana versus coming into Ethereum or Bitcoin that have been around for so much longer?
All eyes on Bitcoin this cycle.
Why do you say that?
ETF.
Okay.
There's not enough Bitcoin for everyone. Obviously, U.S. is probably the first country to fully legalize Bitcoin ETF. What I heard from right now is that a lot of countries in Asia, Japan, Korea, Taiwan, Hong Kong, or even more places want to legalize their own ETFs as well, spot ETFs. So when that happens, you have to acquire BTC from the markets. There is not enough BTC for institutional, for family offices, for retails. So when Bitcoin goes up, I think it's going to go up a lot more. There's going to be new people, new ecosystem, new layer building around Bitcoins, obviously. And when that happens, we just have to be ready, right? As a Solana, as an ecosystem. So I think memes are definitely good for culture, for CODs, for liquidities. I mean, if a meme can go as high as WIF, as strong liquidities, we can do a lot of things, right? I think let's look at Bunk. I think Bunk is probably one of the best main communities out there, that they have Bunk bots, Bunk swap, a lot of application building around Ming itself. So this is something that we don't really see on the Ethereum side, obviously, because building around Ethereum is not scalable, especially for Ming cultures. But I think Solana means is trying to do more than just being Ming. I think I started seeing with communities want to do more applications on Solana. We start seeing more AI memes on Solana as well, like trying to pop up. Obviously, I don't know if it's legitimate or not, but I see people trying to do more things, more applications, right? So it's good for Solana overall. I think I have not seen a meme cycle last this long, especially on Solana. How long it's gonna last, I don't know, but as long as there's a culture, people are here to stay, right? So it's good for Solana overall. And if we become a far more strong communities with new retail coming in, I think we have a higher chance to let community knows that, hey, we have better alternatives this cycle compared to Ethereum last cycle.
100%. Because I think about all the time, I consider myself in a lot of ways to be like kind of the average consumer in terms of like my background's not super technical. So there's a lot of times that like somebody will say something and I'm like, okay, I understand about 70% of it. The other 30% went straight over my head, right? And I'm like, okay, I got to find a way. And that's part of the reason why I wanted to start the podcast, is like make everything completely understandable to the average person. And if you can do that, you can truly onboard a ton more people into the space, right? Yep. And so then I think about Telegram is a app that I've been using for years with buddies of mine, just because it's a great messaging platform, everything like that. Then we saw Bonk obviously build out BonkBot, and it became so much easier to buy meme coins in terms of like it's the easiest onboarding experience ever to just explain to somebody, hey, just copy the contract address, boom, you can just buy right then and there, press one button, boom, you just bought, you want to sell it, boom, press another button. Very, very simple. And I think about the UI experience of that being so easy for the average person to understand that they don't really have to come in as, with a super technical background and things like that. And when I think about onboarding the masses, that to me is what will do it, because I think about crypto and NFTs and everything like this, and I always think about the biggest issue we have is explaining to the average person why this is actually going to benefit you, right? And so meme coins in a lot of ways are, it's like gambling, but in a way that you can actually affect, right? Because you don't truly have the ability to, if you just put a bet on on the Detroit Lions, you can't really affect if the outcome of that game, right? But with meme coins, you actually have the ability to affect it, right? In terms of you can become part of the culture. We've seen people like K-Money and everything he's done with Mog, and he's become such a huge part of that culture. We've seen people like Ansem with Whiff and yada, yada, yada. And so to me, you have the ability to affect the actual outcome of it because you can help build out that culture, which becomes, so powerful. Yeah. And I think that is something that I get really excited for, because when I think about what is going to help onboard so many people into the blockchain space and stuff like that, is that you need culture. Tech is great, and we need tech, and tech has to work in a way that, again, benefits people's lives and things like that. But if there isn't that cultural element of it, then there's not as much, I guess, like fun for the average person to come in and want to learn more about it. And I think blockchain is probably the one thing it's lacked for a long time, is that culture outside of like, you and I both have been in crypto for quite a long time, and you always have the average person that's like, oh, that's like a crypto bro. Like, and they're kind of like, oh, that's a crypto person. And it's almost as if you're like an alien, right? When you say you're into crypto. And so I feel like one of the ways that you make it more normalized is you have the cultural element where somebody goes, hey, crypto now has become cool. When it becomes cool, people want to actually spend the time to learn about it. So would you agree with that sentiment? Do you think that's part of what helps kind of onboard people? What are your thoughts on all of that?
Absolutely. I think people don't realize all these on-chain data, right? I think the craziest time last cycle was the time where Dogecoin really kicks off. I think that's the time where people start using MetaMask. People start wondering like, what the hell is this? Like, what is crypto right? Assets. Like I said, I think the onboarding process has to be seamless as a way that you have to attract these retails or these new users coming to the space. I think instead of telling like Jupiters, a lot of Jupiter, don't get me wrong, but instead of telling Jupiter, we're telling them to buy adult coins, which one would be a lot easier, right? So a lot of these newcomers are leveraging the speed of Solana, buying these meme tokens, and whether they make money or not, they're going to ask themselves, what can I do more? Right, on these decentralized applications. So we're also seeing like higher TVL. Well, I mean, the growth of TVL of all these different protocols is that way people like realize that, hey, I'm buying memes, I got some stable coins left, maybe I can put in deposit, lend it out, earn additional 6 to 8% of yield on Solana. I think these are the things that what these meme tokens are bringing to Solana overall as an ecosystem. I mean, not just Solana, right? There's more memes on Ethereum side as well, but it's just that like for the last few months, I've been absolutely, I don't say speechless, but like I was very surprised amount of memes that is being created, and the amount of memes are actually are still lasting right now. So I think people are betting on Solana overall as a chain of innovations. Memes are part of innovation and ideas as well, right? And obviously there's going to be rotation of innovations, and all these liquidity user, they're going to be wondering, hey, I've got 40% on my net worth on the means, 60% I want to put in somewhere else. That actually makes sense. As in, like, going to build applications are going to be helping Solana overall as an ecosystem. So, in our Discord, Zeus Network, we are also seeing a lot of profile pictures on all these memes as well. People asking like, hey, we love the concepts, explain more. So, we start seeing people want to be more educated, not just memes obviously, but they want to be memeable, also knowing what is going on in the future for Solana. So
100%. I feel like that's what we're starting to see now more than ever. Is like you'll see somebody who's like, hey, I just made 50 Sol on some different meme coins and stuff like that. I'm going to put a bunch of it into Jupe. I want to have it, I want to have it locked there. I want to make sure it's staking on that. Now I've got Bonk. Now I'm staking that for 6 months. I want to go, I just made a bunch of Solana. I'm going to get that staking now. And so I feel like you're seeing people take like, they're enjoying the cultural aspect of it and everything like that. Because I think about where the space was at like 8 months ago. It was pretty bleak at the time, right? Like, yeah. I mean, like very, very bleak. Even from a content creator side of things, I'm like, man, it's hard to talk about this right now, right? There's really nothing exciting. There's they're just depressed. You go on the timeline, everybody's just super, super negative. And I feel like, obviously the underlying asset going up in value is always going to make it a little bit easier to be on the timeline. But on top of that, I feel like the fun that people are having along the side of meme coins, even on the days like today's kind of a red day, people, the coins for the most part have gone down a little bit. Never a bad thing, a little consolidation. But in terms of people are still excited. And I think, again, it's like they're having fun with the cultural element of it. And then on top of that, they're learning more about, okay, like I've seen more people partake in everything going on with Jupiter than any other DAO vote I've ever seen. So I think that to me is super, super bullish on where we're going with the space of people actively making money and enjoying the culture, and then taking that and saying, okay, I want to now, learn more about the tech side of things and really make sure that I'm using, my tokens to kind of benefit the tech and vice versa. And when you talked about the last cycle and a lot of people kind of getting into Ethereum with Dogecoin, or getting into MetaMask with Dogecoin and things like that, I think about where culture and tech really meet is when people start to onboard into this. And we've seen, programs like Phantom that are so easy to use, and the UI experience is so beautiful that, again, the average person coming in, they're like, this looks like a product that a company like Apple would build, right? And so then they feel comfortable when they're on the platform, and when they're comfortable, again, they're much more likely to spend more time on it. I think about a lot of the tech elements that were built few years ago. They were far more difficult, far more technical. You had to learn, you had to know a ton more. Now it's like, again, you can understand a lot of the programs much easier. It's easier then for the average person to come in, learn about it, and then go and tell somebody else about it, right? So, obviously we've talked a lot about Zeus, and we're going to continue to talk more about Zeus, but I want to know from your end of things, what are some of the other protocols or programs that you've seen built on Solana or any other chain that you're really bullish on what they've been building, and somebody that you're inspired by in the space right now?
Yeah, there are tons actually, but if I have to pick one project that really excites me overall for the last few months, is Camino. And obviously we know the team since day one, Hubble, from their previous pivots. I think they were probably one of their earliest pioneers to creating a lot of borrowing lending votes on Solana, and I think that really struck me as a founder, where they don't stop innovating. They still create multiple vote strategies, allowing people to subscribe overs. I'm a heavy Camino user myself, and in terms of GameFi, we have Nine Heroes. Nine Heroes coming out right now. I just tried the betas, extremely good. I don't even feel like it's a blockchain games anymore. It's obviously Genopads, Pokemon Go is a good notion as well. I think there's some exciting announcements are coming out as well. So you get a lot of strong builders are actually building through the bears, and they're going to be pushing even harder right now with this market sentiment right now. And I still think that we haven't really seen the true potential of Solana. People really haven't seen that. What I mean by that is that a lot of these OG builders, founders, we really have a couple cards on their hands where we want to play or roll out right now. Obviously, the market conditions very good. And when we have all these catalysts coming on Solana, and more founder builders are coming to the space, especially building on Solana only, it just makes the entire ecosystem very hella competitive, right? I want to be in the next Camino. I want to be the next Nine Heroes, Genopads, all these stuffs. And when that happens, you have a strong environment. I would say like something like New York Wall Street, right? People want to be competing with each other. And when that happens, we're no longer talking about speed. We're no longer talking about scalability. We're talking about innovations. How can we onboard in the next wave of users? Then that will be a real industry where people just keep building, keep competing each other, and the real one in the States. And that's what I'm seeing on Solana right now. Obviously we have teams in Taiwan want to apply for hackathons, these upcoming Solana hackathons. We have over 10 plus teams already. Kids from school, universities, even kids in high school. 2 kids from high school want to apply for the upcoming hackathon as well. So I think Solana is here to say, obviously we went from $7, $8 to where we are right now, price sure it helps, but what matters is the people that chose to stay, the people that chose to stay and are still striking, still innovating through the bears. I think these are the one going to be leading example and pioneers. I mean, role models for a lot of future generation of founders and developers. And this is something that we don't really see often on Ethereum right now. It's obviously layer 2, layer 3s, side chains. And yeah, and I think for the last few weeks and months, I've been getting a lot of messages saying that, they really appreciate the fact that we're not giving it up. We also had our fair launch NFT, Dappy Games, and Dappios. We've also been taking care of their communities very well. Is that we never treat these pricing, this and FTX crash or hacks as an excuse of giving up as a founders or as a teams. Instead, we use that as a motive. We use that as a gas fields where we could do something, right? Instead of blaming on anyone outside the team. So it's been going well, but it's also the humble beginning where we're getting a lot of attentions, spotlights. Everyone's talking about us. It's good in a way that more responsibilities, carrying this and communication there, making sure Solana is gonna bring a couple thousand BTC to our networks and then let Solana become the ultimate execution application theirs. So
yeah, there we go. So tell me, why should people be excited about Zeus token? What can we expect with it? I guess give me some of the give me the bull case on Zeus token. Not financial advice, but give me the bull case on Zeus token.
Well, we haven't released about our token usage utilities. Obviously, if you want to run Zeus nodes, you need Zeus tokens as a verifier. So that is a demand. We're also going to be redistributing the fees amount of Bitcoin communicated over to Solana. You're going to earn partially fees and then use the fee to buy Zeus tokens of the liquidity pools. That could potentially make Zeus token as a deflationary tokens as well. So, if we can grasp a couple thousand BTC, which I think we will, that could have a huge impact on buy demand side for Zeus tokens. And most important part, Zeus is a layer that with multiple dApps building around it. So when there's Apollos, 30,000 users trying to get into test nets for the last few days, also going to have its own tokens. So there's a couple of dApps building on top of Zeus layers. There could be multiple airdrops, right, for Zeus token holders as well. So the bull case will be when BTC really coming to Solana with a couple thousand BTC, people are going to start asking, everything does make sense. And the Zeus token usage utility will just speak itself from there. So, I don't want to say it's bullish or speculative and speculating all this stuff, but a token that has to serve a unique purpose, right? A token that has to mean something for the ecosystem. So I think Zeus, our design is to make sure we're not making this token inflationary. Instead, we want to make sure that whoever is contributing to the ecosystems, they are being rewarded in Zeus, our Zeus nodes. Second, the most important part is when the fee comes in, we want to make this token deflationary in a way that more asset communicate over, the more Zeus is going to be deflationary.
There we go. So, okay, so talk to me about, you mentioned one of the dApps, Apollo. So tell me a little bit more about that. What is Apollo used for? Give me some of the more information about that.
Yeah, so Apollo is crucial for entire Zeus layer per se. That it's the first native wrapper. So when I say wrappers, WBTC is wrappers as well, right? So, but it's centralized. They run through BitGo as a custodies, and then you need to be KYB and KYC. If you do more than a couple BTC, you need T+1 as well. But Apollo is a seamless permissionless wrappers where you stake your BTC, you get ZBTC right away. No KYC needed. One-to-one pack, powered by Zeus communication layers. So putting in a simple way that every BTC address you see on the Apollo side is derived from Solana virtual machine. So when you deposit into it, it sends a communication layer and then sends a message to a Solana virtual machine, which is Zeus layers. So there is no censorship, no centralized messages in between, making sure, I think good things about our design is that Zeus node running as a multi-sig structures. So even foundation level from us, we don't even have authority to say, hey, we want to stop this transaction from going this way, one way or the others. There has to be a consensus on Zeus nodes. And secondly, is we are designed by over collaterals design, as in, if our TVL is about 100 million USD, we can only communicate over 80 millions of assets. And why is that important? So when a hacker wants to hack the internet, our networks, he has to pay 100 million worth of SOL just to get 80 millions of BTC. I mean, realistically, it doesn't make sense.
Doesn't make sense at all.
Doesn't make sense at all. So again, it's control. Everything is powered by the nodes itself. Security level is empowered by the total value lock itself as well. So everything is secure in a way that we're not interfering any decisions on the communities. Obviously, there's governance on the Zeus token, obviously, but in terms of TVL designs and security aspects, we're out there.
Okay, so talk to me more about like the future of Zeus. So obviously, let's assume next year goes beautiful. Let's say huge success, everything like that. Where does Zeus go from here?
Yeah, for sure. Obviously, Stacks is going to be one of our focus for the next few months. Stacks integration, Bitcoin layer 2. And let's not forget, right? Bitcoin is a UTXO chain. There are tons of UTXO chains out there. Litecoin, sitting around top 30, top 20 market caps. Insufficient blockchain, as in no one's really utilizing the liquidities, right? Dogecoin, sitting around top 10 UTXO chain, doing nothing but having great tractions of topics and discussions in the markets. Why can't we integrate it now? Why can't we bring these billions of market caps, liquidities coming to Solana? And then I think something that I envisioned, right? There's going to be Zeus wallets. It could be the first multi-chain wallet on Solana Sega phone. And you could deposit your Dogecoin natively, earn Solana yield. You could deposit your Litecoin as well. And what's more importantly, we're going to have a Zeus SDK. So every dApps on Solana can leverage this SDK, accepting all these native assets as well. So you can use native Dogecoin to buy any SBO assets on Jupiter's.
Oh, that's very cool. That's very cool. So when you guys are thinking about like what chains you want to integrate, you talked about Litecoin, you talk about, Doge and everything like that. What's the process like of deciding like, okay, this is something that we want to build on? Because for example, I'll explain my background. When I first got into crypto, the 3 coins that I bought were Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Litecoin. I kept my Bitcoin and Ethereum, and Litecoin, I felt like at one point I'm like, this thing just died. And recently I feel like in the last few months I've heard more and more people talking about Litecoin. I'm not exactly 100% sure why that is that more and more people have been talking about it. Hopefully those are, means my bags are going to go up. I would look forward to that. But explain to me when you're talking about, what other chains do you want to build on? Why is it that Litecoin is one that you're interested in? And what is kind of like the process of deciding, okay, this is worth building on or not worth building on?
Well, obviously Stacks is going to be integrated right after Bitcoin is a layer 1. And for Doge, or Litecoins, I think these are the part we're going to leave it to communities for voting with Zeus tokens. And technically it's feasible. We have looked into the code. It's 100% feasible. Or maybe communities wants us to integrate Ordinal first. Never know, right? So, I mean, Litecoin as a blockchain, whether you like it or not, is still one of the biggest market cap out there, and it's still very decentralized. As in, many miners still mining Litecoin even till this days. And Litecoin to me is it's just insufficient blockchain in a good way that, it's a strong market cap, but no one's really building on top of it. No usage. But if there is a blockchain, enable Litecoin with more innovations, onboarding these liquidity to application layer like Solana could be catalyst for Litecoin overall. Finally, you can stake your Litecoin to earn yield, or there could be a wallet building between Solana and Litecoin, enabling more innovations as well, right? So I think whatever you think, you don't have this vision or not, the integration by Zeus is going to spark a lot of interest and innovations in building between blockchain to blockchains.
Do you think we're going to see a ton more engineers and just people in general builders come into the space in this next year that are going to help kind of build out some of these different chains? Because when I think about it, I'm like, one of the common things that I've heard in the last, year or so or 2 years that I've been doing this podcast is times that people have been talking to other, kind of tech entrepreneurs or, who are engineers, things like that are like, hey, blockchain, I'm just not interested, right? I feel like over the course of the last year, we are seeing more and more interest come into the space. Obviously, if you have more engineers, you have more builders coming into the space, you have more people who are actively looking to build out tech on these different, on these different chains and build out about kind of the use cases around them. You talked about Litecoin, and you're like, there's not really many people building on Litecoin. Do you think that's just from a lack of engineers coming into the space, and people are kind of picking and choosing which chains they want to operate on? And they're like, for the most part, it's been a lot of people using Bitcoin, Ethereum, and now more and more people building on Solana. Do you think we just have a lack of good builders and engineers coming in, and then we're going to see more come in, or what do you think is going to, I guess, like help build out some of these other chains?
Well, let's not forget, right? Litecoin is POW. So obviously you have the decentralized solutions for consensus, but you're also sacrificing the speed, scalability of a blockchain itself. So, we always have enough engineer. It's just that the chain itself is not scalable, as in you cannot build virtual machines, smart contracts, so-called, on top of it. So you can really build application on top, right? So if Bitcoin there to push Bitcoin to couple X multiplier from here. If Litecoin, there's a layer 2 on Litecoins, which is powered by Zeus layers, validated by Solana virtual machine. It could be another catalyst, right, for the Litecoin communities. And I'm not saying that I don't hold Litecoins, but it's still one of the oldest coin, right, with a lot of nodes running still even till today. There has to be a way to really interact with this blockchain. So if previously Ethereum couldn't do it, I think we have a long shot. We have a shot here for Zeus layers to really interact with Litecoin communities. Yeah.
It's cool. Like, I love what you guys are doing, because you're basically because the Litecoin community is incredibly strong. Like, you mentioned Litecoin on Twitter, like there are so many people that come in that I'm like, I didn't even know you existed, and they come out of the woodworks and they're like, man, Litecoin, let's go. And so I feel like, one of the cool things about what you guys are doing is it's going to cause so many more people to kind of operate with each other. And so we're kind of broadening the whole family, because I do feel like one of my biggest, and I've kind of mentioned this earlier in the podcast, but one of my biggest gripes with the space is so many times people are just so hardcore chain maxy that they're like, I only want to talk about Bitcoin. I only want to talk about Ethereum. I only want to talk about Solana, Litecoin, whatever. And to me, that limits our growth in a lot of ways, because when somebody new comes in, they're like, I always feel like when it comes to tech in general, the average person coming in doesn't really give a shit how the tech works. They just want it to work. They just want it to better their life in some way, right? And so I feel like a lot of times when somebody's a chain maxi, it kind of limits us in the belief of like, well, then somebody has to be, if you're onboarding somebody or whatever, they have to be interested in that one specific chain. To me, I'm like, multi-chain just makes far more sense, because then you can just onboard somebody into blockchain in general, and not necessarily like, oh, you have to learn about this one chain and only this one chain. And that, again, to me, limits the amount of people that are going to come in from the outside. So, that, I guess, is like what really excites me about what you guys are doing, is you're making it where it allows, for more people to kind of learn about multiple chains all at the same time and operate within multiple chains. And to me, that is what is going to, again, bring more and more people into this, because at the end of the day, if the tech makes your life easier, it's the easiest onboarding experience ever, because you're going to tell somebody else about it. And that, to me, is what we really, really need when we talk about onboarding the masses, is if we can get somebody, just the average person, to be like, okay, here's why I should look into this. That is something that, again, where we're going to see that. And so I was having a conversation with somebody the other day about the medical field, right? And they were like, when you go to a doctor's office, you're basically just giving them, they have your medical file, and what happens to that data is completely out of your control, right? You have no real ability to decide if they, if you never go to that doctor again, they've still got your medical files. You truly don't even know what's happening with that. And they're like, now, what if you tokenize that, right? What if they had tokenized access to your medical data, where in the time period where they're treating you as a patient, they have access to your medical data. The moment you're no longer being treated by them, they no longer have access to your medical data. I'm like, the average person can understand that, right? Like, that is something that could benefit their life. You have a lot of people who are very concerned about their data, making sure it's not, exposed to the wrong people and things like that. That, to me, is something where I'm like, okay, that could onboard people, right? Because they can hear that and they're like, okay, that makes a lot of sense. Do you look at some of the different things that are being built out on chain, and you're like, okay, this could be the thing that the average person can understand, and where we always have the media outlets that are writing things about, blockchain in general. For the most part, it's not always the nicest things, right? But if you have a practical use case like that, I think the average person can understand it, and it can make it where the media sentiment around crypto can kind of change, because people can go, okay, I can see how that can benefit my life. Do you see those sort of things being built out? Do you see, what do you think, I guess, is going to get the average person to go, okay, I see now how blockchain betters my life?
All right, so obviously, I would say 90% of people coming to the space, they're here to make money. No shame. Like everyone, I was one of it as well. Like, I wasn't thinking to change the world. I was thinking hey, there's a opportunity to make some decent money off this space. And I think decentralized data, decentralized usage are the things that blockchain can really empower without any censorship and middlemen and stuck in betweens. And they're just looking at deeping. I think deeping is probably one of the hottest narrative this cycles, where Helions, they offer like $30. Is it $30?
I don't know off the top of my head.
20, 30 something. I think it's way less than T-Mobile, right? So
I think it's 20. I think it's
20, right? Yeah. Way less.
Yeah.
I never tried before. I don't know the speed of that, but
yeah.
First of all, like that itself, the pricing is very appealing, right?
Mm-hmm.
These are the things that are empowered by small nodes, light nodes that are on the phones, or computers, laptop that are your homes are doing nothings. Or even render, like GPU market is huge for AI.
Mm-hmm.
We have tons of laptops or GPU chips sitting there doing nothing. As an example that, how every year is ASICs for GPU mining software, it upgrades pretty frequently, right? So the older machines, you're just doing nothing at all. But what if you can run the GPU chips again, rent the capacity on the GPU markets, and someone else can use the GPU market to do something else as well? I think these are the things that blockchain, as a permissionless solutions, where a lot more builders don't have to rely on AWS, GCP, heavily pretty expensive. Instead of using a blockchain, choosing blockchains, and then instantly you have far more user acquisition than any other software right now. So, like I said, I think in the next 3 to 5 years, a lot more Web2 engineers, founders are going to migrate to Web3. It's not because they're going to change the world. It's because it's easier to acquire users, right? When you look at Web2 startups, like especially the one in Silicon Valley, if you look at the balance sheets, the one that they spend the most labors probably, but second the most is marketing. But you look at Web3 startups, we don't spend that crazy amount on marketing anymore. We spend wisely, as in a way that you build traction, you build logos, people will appreciate the narratives. You have like a couple thousand or 10,000, 20,000 users right away across the world. I was also looking at the Polo test, right? The IP address. We have like 6,000 people from the States, 4,000 from Brazil, like 3,000 from Japan. I wouldn't even push that in Japanese communities, but we just have that much of user from globally, right? So I think the future of Web3 is definitely going to be one that where a lot of global communities coming forward into one piece. And when also, with that being said, like, when you run a deeping companies or companies that are actually going to incentivize user to earn additional yield, you're not limited in one regional against, right? You're not a US company anymore. You're Web3 companies, meaning that you empower everything across the world, like Japan, Korea, Taiwan, China. You have footprints on everywhere. So let's say you are a founder of builders, right? So why would you want to spend a traditional industry where you spend like millions and millions acquisition or conversion PPC, I don't know, some kind of advertisement online? It's false. Obviously, it's speculative in Web3, but if there is a way that you can acquire more users and then save costs on a service fee, which is building on blockchains, I don't know. I really think that this is going to change a lot of Web2 perspective on you and founders. And then just looking at data, right? Amount of Web3 founders from the last years or months is outraged by 40% compared to Web2 founders. So it just shows that people know you have to do your startup smart. You have to know how to acquire users. And like I said, not every founder wants to change the world. You don't have to. You don't have to build a best product to disrupt the world, but you have to build a good product and have decent amount of users using it. I think Web3 is probably the good place to start.
100%. I always talk about the Web3 community is they engage so heavy, unlike anything else. Like, I have a pretty similar following on Instagram that I do on Twitter. My Twitter audience is 10x more engaged. I mean, honestly 100x more engaged on Twitter than it is on Instagram, and it's just part of like the Web3 world. There's this huge like builder culture. There's a huge amount of like support culture. People really do want to see you succeed. They really want to take what you're building, try it out, offer constructive feedback and criticism and things like that, and so that we can build these things out and make them that much better. And that to me is one of the things that makes me the most excited about this. Is typically if somebody's launching a normal Web 2 app, there's really no great feedback mechanism for that. Now, if with Zeus, you're going to know immediately what people's thoughts are on it, right? Because you're going to go on Twitter and your notifications are going to be blown up with people either saying they love it, they hate it, they are indifferent on it. And somebody might have some sort of constructive criticism that helps lead the next generation of where Zeus goes, right? And that to me is if you can have the user acquisition and then the user feedback and have that mechanism all like so engaged and so powerful, you're going to get the greatest, like you're going to have the greatest ability to grow and do what you need to do to have Zeus succeed. Unlike in Web 2, where a lot of people are doing these like paid trials and things like that, where they're bringing people in and they're paying them to give them their feedback and things like that, but it's somebody who doesn't really give a shit about what they're building and things like that. This is something where now you guys going through Jupe and everything with the DAO vote, now you've got a ton more eyes and attention on what you guys are doing. Now the Zeus tokens are going to launch. You guys are going to get the feedback directly from the community in Web 3, and that's going to help really show where the next direction of Zeus is going to go. Yeah. That feedback, again, is unlike anything else, nothing we've ever seen in Web 2. So, yeah, it is, that to me is something that just makes me incredibly bullish on Web 3 in general.
I don't even think we spent more than 100K, 100,000 on marketing.
Yeah, that's
to get
wild.
This much of users from Web 2 perspective, you have to spend millions.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I mean, if not like tens of millions. I mean, it's like,
for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy the amount of money that has to be spent, and then again, what you can do on Twitter and just getting that feedback mechanism.
Sure.
But so give me 1 year from now, we're sitting here running this back. NFT New York 2025. What will you say if we're having the same conversation then? How will you judge the success of Zeus? If we're looking at it and you're like, hey, Zeus has been an incredible success over the last year, what would that look like for you?
As a product or as a like the contributions, or
let's say both. Like, what would you say is like what are your goals for the next year?
The goals next year, obviously, I want to see everyone, especially like one on Trust Wallet, they can swap BTC to any other assets, maybe by leveraging Zeus SDKs. I think that will be one of the quite a big of milestones that we want to achieve. More so, I want to see Sega phones, users that could deposit multi-chain assets from external blockchains like Litecoin, Dogecoins, or any other asset that we're going to be integrating with. Most important part, we want to see more BTC usage rate on Solana networks, where we expected to see at least a couple thousand BTC coming to Solana. And so if Bitcoin is going to be $100,000 times 1,000, that's quite a bit of liquidity coming to Solana overall. So also we want to see at least 4 to 5 dApps building on Zeus layers. Right now we have Apollo's first dApps. We're also going to be rolling out 2 more dApps this year as well. So it's been busy years, but amount of interest, amount of feedbacks that we've been getting, we get a lot of teams from Vietnam where they also want to build on top of us as well. They have some ideas like question NFT swaps, using BTC to buy any SPL NFT, Solana NFT as well. So I think these are the innovations that we can really see by the end of this year, or before the end of this year. And then by next year, I think that everyone's going to get used to it. Solana is the best execution there. Using native external blockchains native asset to buy any SPL assets, it will become the norm. It will become common. So I think when people are used to it, I think that's the moment where we'll actually be very, very successful in terms of user experience.
100%. So you mentioned a few other DApps that you guys are building out, but you didn't really give me any alpha. Is there anything you can share on some of the different DApps that you guys are building out? Yeah.
So Zeus wallets. The multi-chain wallets, every address is derived by Solana virtual machine. It's coming up, so it's the first. I think it could be the first multi-chain wallet on Solana Sega phones, as a decentralized wallets, right? So, and at that time point, you can deposit Bitcoin to earn yield on Solana Sega phones. That could work as well. So, second dApps, we're thinking to do NFT swaps, where you can use BTC to buy any Solana NFTs. You can use maybe Litecoins or Dogecoin to buy any Solana NFT as well. And we're also thinking to do stable coins, collateral stable coins, where you can collateral your Bitcoin to mint stable coins on Solana.
There we go.
That could be
huge.
that Maker, they're doing pretty well, right, with DAI, right? So if Bitcoin is far more bigger market cap compared to Ethereum, it should be using as a collateral to mint stablecoin. I think it's a better option in my opinion.
So I'm curious to get your just last few questions. I'm curious to get your thoughts on the Saga phone, because one of my, I guess if I'm playing devil's advocate, I look at it and I go, are you really going to get a bunch of people to come in, not only come into blockchain, come into Solana, but then we're going to get these people to kind of ditch their iPhone and go with the Saga phone, right? And in my head, I'm like, the odds of that are pretty low, in my opinion. And that's only because I think a lot of people, especially US-based people, look at it and they're like, they're so used to Apple products and it's such a huge aspect of their life that getting them to kind of switch phones is asking a lot. At the same time, the way I look at it, and I guess what makes me bullish on Saga is what it does to me is if you can build out some of this really, really cool functionality that people are really excited about and gets people talking, gets people to say, hey, I've never debated switching from an iPhone to another phone, but this product or this D-app that was built out or this, whatever that was built out on Saga has got me so excited that I'm even debating switching phones. That to me is so massive that what that could cause is a gigantic company like Apple to go, hey, we have to pay attention to what they're building because there's so many people that are interested in this. It'd be dumb of us to not pay attention to it. Yeah. So that to me is what gets me excited about it. For you, what gets you excited about the Saga phone?
Actually, I have a different perspective on the Saga phone because when I look into the papers on a Saga phone, I knew the vision is a bit different than anyone else because I look at Saga as like a ledger.
Okay.
So there are 60 million users having ledgers on their hands. But if we have a better alternatives, and then this ledger could easily allow you to interact with any blockchain space, especially on Solana. I mean, that to me is a replacement of ledgers. I want to use ledger just putting there for doing nothing. Because Sega is also acting as a cold wallet, right, sometimes. So a wallet that can access to multiple dApps, a wallet that allows you to get multiple airdrops. And let's not mention, right? Let's not forget, like Sega 2 is coming out with better user experience. Obviously, there are a lot of improvements can be made. I also own those Sega phones. It's pretty hard to use, not gonna lie. But I mean, it's the first phone, right? If you guys looking at the first phone for Apple, looking back, crazy,
yeah.
Right? So I think they raised quite a bit of money when it sold was like $80. So they probably had like 100 millions of funds to make this phone better. And for me, like blockchain phone, it's not a replacement for Apple's, right? I don't think you can put it in the same categories. It's alternatives for any users. Like I said, if you don't like ledgers or you think this phone could act as a ledgers, right, for allows you to interact with multiple dApps in one clicks, that could be alternatives, right? Why can't we have two or three phones? I have Android phones myself. I'm heavily Apple users, but when I envision next 5 years, people are gonna start getting into MetaMask, Phantom, all these different wallets. And when that happens, having a blockchain phone may actually make sense. You're not gonna be on your laptop all the time.
Yeah, that's facts. So, okay. So last question then: is there anything you want to leave everybody with? Obviously, there's a lot of people are learning a ton about Zeus right now. They're painting this. It's one of the big hot topics of the space right now. Is there anything, if you could sum up what you want people to know about when they think about Zeus? Anything you want to leave people with?
Yeah, for sure. I think the future is all about question interoperability. When last few cycle we talk about I'm choosing this side of chains. We're gonna be a killer of these chains, but I think this cycle is gonna be different. As in, we haven't heard of Ethereum killers anymore. I mean, there are some people want to be Solana killer, but I think Solana as a community, as an ecosystem, we want to really like scale our blockchain overall, and we want to scale outside of our blockchain as well. Like we want to make communities outside of Solana, make them feel like, hey, this chain could be the ultimate application execution theirs. And we actually see more Bitcoin communities being aware of Zeus networks, where they'd be like, hey, Zeus network could be alternatives or one of the methods. I mean, one of the options for Bitcoin layer 2 for people to get exposed to Solana. Because I still think that 2024 is the year of Solana. Everyone wants to get exposed to, right? But if you want to rely on exchanges to gain more exposure, it doesn't work that way. We have software from FTX already. What if there's a permissions matters when no KYC, KYB needed? You can stake your BTC and then start earning yield on Solana without any efforts. So I'm extremely bullish on the innovation itself because, like I said, EVM has failed to become application layer for Bitcoins already. And we have a shot for Solana where onboarding even 10% of circulating supply, that itself, we can surpass Ethereum's TVLs already. So, I mean, we are all about earning yields, right? If there's a layer with the best social vested layers with real users generating real yield, and these yields are going to be potentially beneficial for these Bitcoin stakers, I think we have a shot right here.
There we go. That's a drop the mic moment. So drop your socials. Where can people find you if they want to talk to you directly?
Well, come to my Twitter at Dappiokeeper, DAPPIOKEEPER, and come to Zeus Network HQ. That's our official Twitter account. And yeah, welcome into our Discords. Pin our teams. I've been pretty responsible on Discord actually. Quite frankly, like if you message me, I usually reply within a day or two. And yeah, super grateful to join Marc's podcast. It's been quite a experience. Obviously, so it's actually my second time having to join a Western podcast, and I've done quite a few in Asia as well. But I think that for the next few months, we're gonna try to get more exposure on the Western side. Obviously, we have gained quite a few institutional supports already on the Bitcoin miners. We haven't made announcements yet, but I think sooner or later, people are going to realize that there are tons of institutions, especially miners, that are interested to gain more exposure to Solana.
There we go. That gets me excited. Is there anything you want to say to the Asian audience before we leave here?
Support Marc's podcast.
There we go. Well, hey man, I appreciate you coming on. This has been a lot of fun. I've really enjoyed getting to know you and getting to know everything that you guys are doing over at Zeus. I'm excited, man. It's going to be a big week. I know by the time this podcast comes out, some of the big Zeus announcements will already be out there. But dude, I'm looking forward to it and can't wait to see everything that you guys do. It's been I love when I see somebody that's been building in the space and is just constantly innovating and looking at it and saying, hey, what can we improve upon, and really sticking through the tough times of the last year and a half, because I know it hasn't been easy. So dude, appreciate you guys, appreciate everybody on the team, and looking forward to meeting more of the team as time goes on. But again, man, appreciate you coming on, and yeah, dude, very, very excited for the future of Zeus.
Likewise, appreciate inviting me and myself coming to the podcast. It's one last thing, like it's always very interesting to hear different perspective from Asia and Western, right? But one thing I found in common interest is that people want to earn additional yield off their Bitcoins. They've been sitting on wallets or ledgers doing nothing at all. But hey, if there's a way, yeah.
If there's a way, let's do it. Yeah. Hey, my Bitcoin's chilling right now, so I'm looking forward to it. So let's get that yield.
All right, thanks.
There we go. See you, man.